welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Matt Delaney. Joining me this week again, Tracy. You on the line, Doc?
Yes.
How you doing?
Just fine. Yeah, that last caller. Yeah, anybody who believes that person created the entire universe is just well, they'll believe anything. And that last guy, I have an explanation for how Jesus rose from the dead, and this will help him with understand Jesus. Jesus was a twin. So that one twin died, and then the other one came out and said, "Hey, I'm